Furl 21, get some! And so today is going to be video 1 of deck history. So I'm going to start off with some of the premises of what this video playlist is going to be. It's going to be the best decks of history, stuff that had shaped the meta, and really, new players come in, they don't know what these old decks were. I'm going to explain when the deck came out, what it did, and how the deck had evolved over time. So I'm going to start off with one of the most well-known decks of all time. In around 2008, Adam Korn kind of made this deck popular. Actually, a lot of the pros back then made this deck just because it was the best. And it was Dad Return. It was all from this one card from Phantom Darkness, Dark Armed Dragon. So this here is a Dad Return list. This is a traditional Dad Return list. There was kind of two versions going around at the time. This is the first one we're going to look at. This is your prototypical. I think this is I don't remember who played this list, but Adam Korn and Jerry Wang and Diaz were all playing around this time. Anyway, this is pretty much the deck. So it's two knights, one trooper, three Dark Armed Dragons, one Demok, Zerato, one Dasher, one Disc Commander, one Fearmonger, one Stratos, one Jinzo, one Morphing Jar, one Prometheus, one Sangan, one Snipe, one Strike, triple Lore, triple D-Draw, one Dimension Fusion, one Enemy Controller, one Heavy Storm, one Reborn, one MST, one Preemie, two Rotas, two Escapes, one Mind Crush, one Mirror Force, two Return for the Different Dimensions, one Torrential, and one Trap Dust Shoot. And at the ban list, you can probably tell what was allowed based on the limits. So what this deck did was, quite simply, you got three Darks in the graveyard, and you Dark Armed, or you banished a lot of stuff, and you Dimension Fusioned, or you banished a lot of stuff, and you went Return from the Different Dimension. And so the deck plays are typically Armageddon Knight, Dump, pretty much just whatever you need. Disc Commander is a pretty popular dump, where you could Reborn it and draw two cards. You could Premature Burial it, draw two cards. You had a Lure to draw a lot of things. You had Strike Ninja to banish things. You had Prometheus to get really big. And pretty much it was just an overall very solid deck. Jinzo was a lot of fun. And you can just see, like, the setup, the game was much, much slower back then. The idea of a deck winning on turn 1 really wasn't what you were expecting to play against. This is one of the first decks to really bring that in the forefront. People thought this deck was really fast for its time. So you can probably see here what the deck did. And what this deck was broken by a lot of regards. Just having the ability to set 3 up and go Dark Arm, pop, 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 or play a long fought out game and then go Dimension Fusion. Demok alone could sometimes win games by itself. There was just a lot of things which made this deck really good. And the draw engine was phenomenal at the time, having 3 Allures, 3 Destiny draws, and pitching stuff like, turn 1 could be like Stratos, grab a Disc Commander, Destiny draw Disc Commander, draw 2, Monster Reborn Disc Commander, draw 2, Allure Darkness, banish something else, and you could MST the, you could just see what this deck was doing. It was insanely good. You said so many, you had double the roads to search any of these Destiny heroes. You had the Destiny draws, the Allures. Essentially no hand was dead in this deck. And then also at the same time we had this deck right here, which was the DDT version of the deck, which stood for Diamond Dude Turbo, which used Diamond Dude's ability, which is you reveal the top card deck. If it's a normal spell, you send it to the graveyard or put it on the bottom. If it's not a normal spell, and then during the main phase of your next turn, you get the effects of that card, even if you don't control Diamond Dude. And you only get the effects. So Destiny Draw became just a flat-out draw 2. Card Destruction became just a flat-out pitch your hand, draw. Monster Gate became, well, stupid. Excavation, just get a spell back. Vortex, pop a card. Heavy, E-Call, Reborn. Just, you can probably see why this was really good. And pretty much what the deck did was, this was the Plasma Control version of DDT from the looks of it. And you would just go Scapegoat, Plasma, steal a dude, lock the board down. You had Phoenix Blade to banish, to control your graveyard, to get back to your hand. and you would set up for Dark Arm Dragon. This was also a very heavy, powerful deck at the time. But eventually, the Dad Return build won out over the Plasma Control build, and in around late 2008, early 2009, all you saw was this kind of build. And then came out Teledad, and this was the apex of the deck. And what this deck did was, when Synchros came out, I didn't even bring the Synchro list up. Let me go 1 second. This is a Teledad SJ Atlanta 2009. Jerry Wang, was this it? Yeah, so it was 2 Colossal Fighters, 3 Goyos, 2 Magical Androids, 2 Red Dragon, 3 Stardust, and 3 Thought Rulers. And what the deck was phenomenal was, it could go turn 1, Rhoda, into Stratos, into Malicious, into D-Draw, pitch Malicious, draw 2, banish Malicious, special Malicious, emergency teleport, into Krebons, synchro for 8, get a Stardust Dragon. Then you could go Destiny Draw again, pitch anything, it didn't matter. And then when you pitched, you could pitch a Diamond Dude, or it didn't matter, you draw 2, you then have Malicious, Diamond Dude, Krebons in graveyard, Dark Arm Dragon, pop, 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 swing for 28, 20, and 25. Is that lethal? Well, there's a traffic cone outside my door. That is weird. Anyway, you can probably see what this deck did for some insane setup. I think some builds before Teledad Dark Arm went to 2. It was at 3. I think it was at 2 when this deck came out. But the explosive power of this deck was just above and beyond what decks had. But also because you could set up your entire field on turn 1, set your oppression. If your opponent tried to do anything, you just be like, even the mirror, just like, I'll oppress you. I'll pay 1600 life, just prevent your deck from doing anything. Or triple Solemn Judgment, Trap Dust, you could really set up just a lockdown of any deck at the time. You had the turn 1 play could be set Sangan, flip a Crush card, Virus, get Plague Spreader to hand, or get Spirit Reaper to hand, or really anything. The Chaos was just great spot removal, Breaker was good spot removal, and this deck was above and beyond what you expected decks to do at the time, where the top decks were 1 through 8 of all the major tournaments were just Teledad, 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 Teledad. And this deck was one of the defining factors of 08 to 09, and then I think this was a maybe, possibly, and I say very possibly, saw some remnants whatsoever in late 09, maybe 2010. I don't think so much at that point. But this was the deck that you looked at and you said, wow, this deck was good. Everyone was playing it. The cost was atrocious. Crush card hit $300. Dark Arm Dragon hit $250 at the time. Greffer was up there. Maliciouses were 50. Allures were like 50s. D-Draws were like 50s. Teleport was like 30. This was the most expensive deck the game had seen in a very, very long time. But nowadays, remnants of the deck exist. You see Dark Arm Dragon kind of there. You see some type of Destiny engines in a lot of the fringe decks. But when Destiny used to be the most powerful deck, bar none, just because the engine it had available to it. And to see the state it is in now, a lot of players don't get a full respect for what this deck did. Anyway, this is kind of my first video in deck histories. I'm going to try to maybe prepare them a little bit better in the future. But for Roll21, get some. Rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know what decks you want to see in the comments, and I'll try to do my best to present that deck to you. Anyway, have a good